Welcome to Balance and Instincts. And with my own situation, I think it's probably a good place to kick off, that I have my own concerns and feel ultimately out of balance with my nutritional needs and health. And instinctively, it feels that I need to look at my diet to sort out my various concerns. In exploring my ideas of balance and instincts, specifically with nutrition and health, I wonder if I can unlock ways of dealing with concerns I have that may be helpful to others, because I'm not unique in the kind of issues I have. Watching other YouTubers talk about their concerns with their health, particularly when they're embarking on things like the carnivore diet or keto diet or some kind of carb up or down ratio of diet. I did stumble across a young lady the other night on YouTube called Lily Kane from the US, and I thought she presented very well. But what particularly drew me to continue watching the video, essentially, was that right up from the start, she mentioned skin conditions, which I have too. And her general presentation was also, let's say, balanced, because she wasn't coming from a specific agenda. She wasn't trying to sell a specific package. She's not this camp or that camp. And she did, with prompts from previous comments from her viewers, she talked about how there do seem to be certain groups and YouTubers who have very specific ideas, and they're very passionate about pushing those ideas and agendas, potentially. It's almost like a cult or a kind of a religion. And ultimately, you cannot really knock on a door and say, have you found my God? Everybody has different leanings and people fit different things. You can't expect everybody to adopt what you're selling. If you approach it like Lily Kane did, and as I'd like to, if you approach it in a more of a balanced and open manner, essentially realizing that the human body is different, then you're going to get better results. And of course, also be, more honest with what you're talking about. So for me, it feels definitely that only a natural approach is going to help sort out what I need to fix. And again, it's something that, Lily Kane said why she didn't immediately go to a dermatologist, because she was just expecting the stock answers, which is exactly what I got. So first off, I have skin issues, and whether it's dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, etc., different doctors have said different things, but I've had this across the T section and in my scalp and hair. It's the only place in my body that I have itchy skin and inflamed skin. I've had these issues for at least 30, but potentially 40 years. I've seen doctors across various countries, all of whom say different things and want to prescribe stuff. And for me, it's obvious that the medical research and information available to the doctors just isn't there. Not enough has been done to research this topic. And too much of it's left, let's say, to the pharmaceutical industry to produce their creams and sell those, and maybe they will help fix. But, even when you get to cortisols, you're not treating the problem, the root cause. What you're doing with a cortisol-based cream is reducing the inflammation. And of course, you're generally told by your doctor or pharmacist, do not use these cortisol applications for more than a few days or a week, depending on the strength. And it's not something you use forever. So essentially, it's Band-Aid on the wound. So, number one problem for me, skin issues. Number two, general problems with sleep, and for me it's getting to sleep, and I've been to 2 sleep clinics in the past. I've naturally done the variety of drugs. Sure, sleeping pills work, but you don't want to be taking them for too long, and you don't want to rely on them. Again, you're back to wanting to fix what the root cause is, or whether it is finding a balance in life that enables you to sleep better. And it could be that it's down to nutrition. It could be to work-life balance. It could be stress-related. But it's finding that balance. So I'm looking at nutrition at this point to see how that can help me. General waking up, feeling lethargic, and general energy-based issues. So in a way, that is slightly linked to the sleep. One potentially rolls on and causes the other. But I'm open to the fact that, sure, I might fix my sleep, get to sleep within half an hour instead of 3, and still wake up feeling lethargic and not feeling so energetic, when I get to the gym. So I'm not sure if that's one or the same, but I like to think of it at this point as 2 separate issues. And the fourth is general digestive issues. Now, I don't want to say stomach issues. People normally think, I feel sick, and they grasp where they think their stomach is. More often than not, it's your gut, it's your intestines. I'm looking at trying to feel, dare I say, balanced, but feel less out of sorts. It can get to meal times. I know I'm hungry, but I'm just not too sure what I feel my body is going to take today. I'm a bit of a fussy eater, sure. I was born allergic to milk, including my mother's milk, which apparently is quite rare. But yeah, bloated possibly sometimes. For the past few years, I've lowered the, let's say, gluten intake, the wheat, breads. I don't do the typical Western breakfast of cereal and toast anymore. But I do have sourdough now and then. So I'm still looking at that. But I guess it's just an odd feeling that just says something's not right. So let's see what we can find to fix it. So this journey began really by watching YouTube as I do. One video leads to another. I guess because I was watching a lot of these social debates, a Jordan Peterson video popped up as the next, but it was him talking to Joe Rogan, I think, about his carnivore diet and that he'd been eating nothing but meat, salt, and water. And he'd been doing this for 5 years at the point of the video being made, which I believe is 2 years ago now. And it was fascinating. So I wasn't searching for a diet. I stumbled across this, and a lot of what he spoke about echoed my concerns, general lethargy, problems with skin, mood swings. I've had that too now and then. And I thought, okay, there's enough that he said here that means I need to explore more. So I watched further videos, stumbled across his daughter, who actually was the one who inspired him to try the diet. There's a whole list of names. I'll list them up here on screen just now, that I found, whether they were or are amateurs, people just trying the diet themselves and reporting their experiences, which I think is very good and valid. You can't say, but they're not medically qualified. Well, ultimately, you want to get real-world experiences, and what you're hearing from them, really, what you want to be taking from them is their experience, not necessarily what they say is true or what you must do. Ultimately, you might try those things. And as always, if you've got real issues, pains, or you're pregnant or something like that, then you should see your doctor first and talk about something you want to embark on and get their opinion. But I found a lot of help through doctors on their websites and on YouTube talking about the merits of the various diets. So therefore, I thought I would embark on my own journey and take a bit from each and work out that I would start with meat in general and not do just red meat. And I did that for a couple of weeks, and I decided to strip the liquids down to just water, which is something I love drinking anyway, and 1 coffee. It's an interesting one with these diets and the general, what seems to be 50-50 split as to whether you should or shouldn't, can or can't drink coffee when you're doing these diets. So you say, I'm a carnivore, but I drink coffee. Well, ultimately, if you cut it out, you may not so much do more damage, but find it more difficult to continue. Now, ultimately, when you say you're going to continue your coffee, that's pure black coffee. You don't want to be loading it up with the various milks, whether they be, things like soy milk, almond milk, or whether it's full dairy milk. You want black coffee, keep it simple. The simpler you can make your diet, the easier it is to identify issues, particularly when you see this as an elimination approach, and then later you bring bits back in one at a time for short periods, a week or two, and then when you have a bodily response of itchiness, inflammation, bloatedness, headaches, whatever it is, you can say, yeah, it was the oranges, or it was the broccoli, or it's definitely eggs, whatever it might be. I would just like to say that I didn't consult a doctor before embarking on this. I've generally found conversations with doctors, and I'm talking about a general practitioner, the ones that are usually accessible, they don't have so much to say in terms of nutrition, much like skin issues. So I have literally taken what I found on the internet, in reading up as well as YouTube, to embark on this. So for the first few weeks, I kept to meat, whether it's beef steaks, ribeyes, strip loins, ground minced beef. I did include eggs for breakfast and bacon, salmon as a good sort of balance, and chicken and pork. I did find after 3 weeks, my energy really plummeted, and this was to be expected. Another couple of things people say you may endure in your first week or so with that change, because your body needs to change from ultimately food is about, it's nutrition, but it's about growth and energy. You need energy to walk around and do things, and your brain uses a lot of energy to think. So traditionally people are getting their energy from carbohydrates and sugars, and carbohydrates are a form of sugar. But what you're now doing is changing to eating meat, and your body needs to flip back, you could argue, to taking energy out of the fats and providing that into your system. So during that process, that could take a week or more than a month, depending on your body. Everybody's metabolism is different. You're going to go through a period of low energy. So I stopped my gym activity completely. I didn't have the expected constipation issues, as people say you might do. And typically the other side of the argument says, yeah, if you just eat meat, you're going to get constipated. Well, not true. So I've had no fiber, no vegetables, not constipated. Continuing on, I found my energy never regained. And I also found that my body didn't seem to like the pork steaks that I was eating at lunchtime. These pork steaks were quite a fatty cut, being told that you want a lot of fat in the diet. And generally they say if you're having energy issues, you need to increase your fat content, your fat intake. The pork steaks, I didn't feel good with them at all. I felt a bit sickly afterwards. I'm putting up on screen some images of some of the foods that I was eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just so you have a rough idea. This pork, deep fried fatty pork, also didn't go down so well. That thick layer of fat that's just below the layer of the skin, for me, was just too soft, and partly a texture issue, but I really felt queasy, let's say, after. I also had, let's say, an episode, a concern, one Saturday night. I'd visited friends during the week, and that ultimately changed my diet slightly because I added some broccoli to that one meal. I didn't continue doing that. But then this one Saturday, I believe I had I had a beef steak and a salmon steak at dinner time. Felt okay. Got back home and decided later that evening to have a very small glass, almost you could say shot, of fortified port wine. So I explain what happened in this little insert clip here, because I recorded that soon after the event to make sure I captured it. So I shall put that up on screen right now. A week or so after that episode, I had a problem in getting food in for that night. There was a public holiday and I couldn't get to the store, etc., etc. So I knew there was going to be one place online that was going to be open, and I knew that it was a bad idea, but we all know it. I think most people know smoking is bad, but they do it. People know sugars and processed foods, sweets, candies are all bad for you, but people do it. So I had a bad moment and I ordered from Burger King a burger for delivery. I felt terrible after. That night, even before going to bed, all through here, just itchy, 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 scratching. I really didn't feel good. So it's interesting how the body responds. After a period of time, just eating the meat, you essentially, having eliminated foods, you reset. And when you start adding things in, if they're not welcome, you soon know about it. But in this case, it's not so much that it's just not welcome. As fast food, it's processed. It's loaded with sugars. The ketchup is loaded with sugars. That slice of cheese potentially has some bad things in it as well. And maybe even the pickles have been sitting in a sugary, sour solution. Who knows? The bun. Yeah. So I didn't feel good. And I knew I shouldn't have done it, and I didn't do it again. By week 5, I decided to eliminate the eggs that I was having at breakfast time because ultimately the skin here was still a little bit red, but less so. More so, it was less itchy than it has been before. But I thought, I wonder if could it be the eggs that are causing it? And again, Lily Kane also mentioned this in one of her videos, which I shall drop in the description below for you. So far, this is still there, a little bit itchy. I'll keep off eggs for another week or 2 if I can, and we'll see how that goes, and we'll talk about that again another time. So talking about diet and various approaches to nutrition with friends, someone told me to watch The Game Changers, which I found on Netflix. Surprised to find that it was made in 2018. That I talk about in this video, if you are interested. But it got me thinking more and more about the fact that there is no one solution, no one camp or doctor, research institute, YouTuber is right. We all respond in different ways. And ultimately, I need to tailor something for me and take the wisdom from other people and work out what that might be, what that ultimate meal package looks like. For me, I think going vegan isn't necessary and wouldn't work. As that video that I show here talks about, with Dr. Ekberg's thoughts and responses on his ideas about the Game Changers TV documentary. I don't think I need to go vegan or vegetarian. I think a meat foundation for me is good. I just have to be more careful about which meats they are and not necessarily having so much of it. Incidentally, my blood type is A-, A negative. I don't think there's a privacy issue there. Interestingly enough, not many others talk about their blood types, but the fact that there is a school of thought and a book published about, eat what your blood type is. I can't remember the exact title. If I find it, I'll stick it up on screen here. But I did see on a web page that if you're this blood type, this is what you should eat. And I'll overlay this on screen too. And ultimately, an A negative should be a vegetarian. Well, that's quite a statement. And I think you wouldn't necessarily naturally gravitate towards that. I think if you did, I don't. I love my meat. So the fact that I do gravitate towards meat makes me feel that notion of your blood type is this, therefore eat that, doesn't really fit. So it's an idea and something to think about, but for me, no. So ultimately, what's the deal? It is balance and following your instincts to what you respond well to. And I think you really do need to be conscious, not just eating a meal and rushing off. You need to be conscious of, how did that go? Ultimately, if you can be bothered, keep a food diary. even doing, getting your cell phone and snapping a photo of your meal, that can be so irritating when you see others do it. But ultimately, if you're on a nutritional path and you're trying to sort things out, that can be a good record as to what you had. And if you do feel bad a day later, you look back through your past few meals and maybe point a finger at something. So my instincts tell me, approaching 50 years old, I'm pretty slim. So my metabolism is pretty fast. So I certainly need to be eating more. At the moment, I kind of strip back unintentionally, really, to 2 meals a day. And I think part of that is because I'm still on the journey to finding what it is I should be eating. I have started reintroducing some greens, a salad now and then, which includes little bits of fruit as well. And I think if I'm not doing this every day, certainly as I break back in, that's a good approach. My energy is better now than it was a week ago, but ultimately I need to just be aware of what's going on with my skin and respond really to how my energy is. I think the moment I feel ready to go back to the gym, that's a good sign. Because ultimately your life should be balanced between exercise and rest. And right now I'm not getting any exercise, probably not working as hard as I could be either. At the beginning of the diet, I did feel mentally more clear. And I was just on pure meat at that point. That was one of the positive responses. But as my energy plummeted and I wasn't getting what I needed, I think it dragged my feeling to get things done down again. So this is very much a work in progress, and I hope you continue checking in on seeing how I'm doing, because ultimately what might work for me could pave a pattern of diet for you to try out and see if you can solve your issues as well. Okay, thank you very much for watching.